So, Shadab Zeest Hashmi is a Pakistani-American poet and essayist whose works have been published worldwide. She is the winner of numerous awards and distinctions, including the San Diego Book Award, Sable's Hybrid Book Prize, the Nazim Hikmet Poetry Prize, and multiple nominations for the Pushkar Prize. She earned her MFA from Warren Wilson Program for Writers and a BA in English Creative Writing from from Reed College. Her books include two poetry collections, Coal and Chalk and Baker of Tarifa, a volume of essays and poetry titled Ghazal Cosmopolitan, which has been praised by Marilyn Hacker as a marvelous interweaving of poetry, scholarship, literary criticism, and memoir. Comb, her latest book, is a lyric memoir selected by Julia Bousma, the poet laureate of the state of Maine, as the best hybrid book of 2019. Zeest Hashemi's poetry has been translated into Spanish, Turkish, Bosnian, and Urdu, and has appeared in numerous international anthologies and journals, most recently in McSweeney's In the Shape of a Human Body, I Am Visiting the Earth, Hybrid Tapestries, New Moons, and the Best Asian Poetry of 2021. Shadab has taught in the MFA program at San Diego State University as a writer in residence, and her work has been included in the language arts curriculum for grades 7 to 12, Asian American and Pacific Islander women poets, as well as college courses in creative writing and the humanities. It is a great honor having you with us tonight, Shadab, and your presentation is titled Hashmi I Am But Near, Measures of Proximity Between Earthly and Divine Love in Sufi Poetics, which I am sure is going to be an incredible presentation. So without further ado, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Rula. I'm so grateful to be with all of you. This has been a fantastic conference. So much new learning, so much inspiration. Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to read some poems and the presentation first. I am but near, archetypes of proximity between earthly and divine love in Sufi poetics. The Sufis aspire to the highest conception of love and understand it to be the vital force within, a metonym for divine essence itself, obscured by the ego and waiting to be recovered and reclaimed. In this session, I'll read my own poems that draw from Sufi symbology after discussing a couple of love epics in relation to three of the dynamics of Sufi poetics that integrate the earthly and divine. Merciful love, or presence, as the force that facilitates an appreciation of differences and contradictions or paradox and pours into harmonious coexistence or pluralism, forming a circuit that flows in and out of divine love. This is one way to sum up the long-running, diverse tradition of Sufi poetics. Fa inni qareeb, I am but near, God says in the Quran. Fa, indeed, added to inni, without doubt, creates a special emphasis. The statement is both comforting and curious. If God is so near, why do we need the double emphasis aimed at persuasion? Why the tone of earnest assurance? As I understand it, this phrase is an invitation for mystic search. God, the omnipresent, is close, but is also, paradoxically, a hidden treasure, according to a well-known Hadith Qudsi. God is the only reality amidst a temporal and spatial panorama made of illusion that seems to easily pass for reality, even by those who have a well-developed perception. God is indeed near, but he promises no access, only the signs. He is not revealed without effort. The effort lies in decoding the signs. The Quranic verse or ayat is translated as sign. The surface meaning of things is not only insufficient, it can also be misleading. The Quran is a language of symbols that explains itself fully only to those who have purified their intention and proceed to decode with sincere rigor. At the core of Islamic mysticism or tasawwuf or Sufism is the prophetic saying, whoever has found himself has found his Lord. In Sufi teaching, a human being navigates the signs, finding within the truest self and the truest knowing of God. This can only happen through the careful, constant cultivation of love. The Sufi decodes all knowledge and all experience with one filter: love. The antithesis of this painstakingly purified selfhood is the ego. Sufi training exposes the incessant suggestions of base desires, vanity, lust, greed, etc., and rejects the ego as a matter of instinct, recognizing and excavating the divine within. In Sufi poetics, all humans, no matter the outward character or creed, carry God within, but exist in a state of forgetting. The word for human in Arabic, insan, comes from ins, or intimate love. But insan is also composed of nisyan, or forgetfulness, as a prophetic tradition says. Sufi poetics often make use of intimate love in earthly form to explain God, the heavenly beloved. The litmus test of proximity to the divine is the extent of discipline of the ego, paradoxically achieved not through the intellect, but through passion. Access to that greatest love hinges on the confounding nature of the ego, which poses as the self rather than the crude copy that it is, a principle most easily understood through love epics. In studying the archetypes that Sufi poets employ, I find it useful to identify the three dynamics I mentioned earlier: paradox, the stretching of the imagination and gaining the intelligence to negotiate contradictory reality in meaningful ways. The earthly beloved is at once a false idol and a means to the highest truth. The second is presence, or the capacity to be awakened to sacred connection. And the third is pluralism, the core principle of Sufism that establishes that all beings share a single essence. Everything in the cosmos is a divine expression, appearing in distinct, identifiable forms, and ultimately converging on divine mercy and majesty. God is al-Haq, or the singular reality, and the complex circuitry of all existence is held together by his essence alone. Love's ultimate expression embraces all. In Sufi poetry, especially in narrative love poetry, the earthly beloved eludes the lover. The pursuit or union involves shedding of the ego through a harsh journey of self-evaluation against the great desire for closeness with the beloved. I'll briefly look at archetypes from two Quranic narrations that have inspired Sufi poets and the popular imagination in Muslim cultures for centuries. The story of the Prophet Yusuf and Potiphar's wife Zulekha, and the Prophet Suleiman and Bilqis, the Queen of Saba. The Quran calls the narration of Yusuf's life a tale most beautiful. The Persian poet Jami's version of Yusuf or Zulekha, written in 1485, is a Sufi interpretation of the Quranic original, an extension, one of several, to enter popular culture as a love epic. These versions are built around Surah Yusuf, the chapter Yusuf in the Quran, but also draw from extra scriptural sources, lore, and mystic meaning making. The key facet of the story of Yusuf is the transformation from earthly to spiritual desire. Yusuf, who is endowed with half the beauty of the universe, is irresistible to Zulekha. She begins her journey in a lustful passion as a young woman of power and beauty, and ends it in repentance, a deepened self-awareness, humility, most importantly, the realization that true earthly love is a tributary of divine love. the transformation occurs only when she becomes capable of perceiving beauty as a manifestation of character, a true reflection of the divine rather than a magnet for carnal desires. In the Quranic allegory, Yusuf suffers injustice after injustice. First, due to the jealousy of his brothers, which causes him to be sold as a slave, then the snare of Zulekha's seduction that causes his imprisonment. In other words, Yusuf's beauty makes him a target. The physical aspect of his beauty becomes a test for him and others. The jealous brothers fail the test. Zulekha fails the test. Only Yusuf passes by showing self-restraint, forbearance, wisdom. As I think of archetypes, I wonder about the recurring image of Yusuf's tunic. Can it be considered a symbol of worldly temptation and ego? First, the tunic of his early youth that his brothers bring after throwing him in a well, returning home in pretend grief over the killing of their brother by a wolf. Their father, the prophet Yaqub, immediately understands that the brothers are lying. The shirt is bloody but intact, no signs of violence done by a wolf. Second, the tunic that Zulekha, who attempts to seduce him, rips while attacking him. When caught, she accuses Yusuf for attacking her, but the tunic is found to be ripped from the back, a proof that he is innocent. Yusuf's brothers are blinded by jealousy. Zulekha is blinded by lust. Though Yusuf suffers despite his innocence, the tunic testifies and tells the truth against the overwhelming falsehoods. Over time, Zulekha, as well as Yusuf's brothers, repent and understand that Yusuf's beauty is no ordinary beauty. It is celestial, and he is above the base desires that they could not overcome as he did. Their transformation comes from understanding that Yusuf's beauty represents moral character. His tunic and outer vestment is a symbol of how vulnerable our earthly selves are to the misguiding suggestions of the ego. But the very symbol of deception can also paradoxically serve to expose it. The Quranic narration of Bilqis, the queen of Saba, and the Prophet Suleiman is replete with archetypes. On the surface, it is a story of courtship between two rulers, but it yields remarkable spiritual discernment and wisdom, and therefore makes great resource material for Sufi poets. I'll focus on the symbolism of the throne, which the Quran uses to draw a clear contrast between the worldly and the eternal. And Rumi elaborates in his Masnavi. In the scriptural narration, Suleiman's dominion includes the supernatural realm of the jinn, as well as birds and other creatures. He is known for his wisdom and worldly power. Saba rules over a people who worship the sun instead of the one true God. Suleiman's wooing of Bilqis is not only an offering of love and marriage, but a spiritual persuasion. She must learn to see power in perspective and question her belief in the false deity. Who comes for help at midnight for the one who worships the sun, as Rumi says on the topic of Saba's creed. Both Saba and Suleiman, as rulers of a wide realm, also depict the Sufi ideal of pluralism, all beings sharing a single essence and serving the divine in harmony. In the Quranic narration, the hoopoe bird, the archetypal messenger of love, reports to Suleiman that Saba, quote, has a throne that is magnificent. This is followed by a verse that delineates the world of illusion and haqq, the true reality, followed by the verse, God, there is no God but He, the Lord of the glorious throne. In Rumi's explanation, Saba's throne symbolizes the body, the physicality of the self, whose divestment is necessary for purifying the heart. Suleiman senses presence in Saba, a propensity to overcome the ego and gain spiritual elevation. When she promises to visit Suleiman from Yemen to Jerusalem, she wishes for her throne, which Suleiman enables via his power over the jinn, knowing that she will herself discard this egoistic attachment. So in the explanation of this poem, Coleman Barks talks about how she gives up everything else. She gives up her orchards, her kingdom, and everything else, but she just is very attached to the throne. And it's a very magnificent, elaborate throne, which is very hard to transport from Yemen to Jerusalem. But Suleiman makes it possible because he orders the jinns to bring it. So Rumi says, Solomon saw that her heart was open to him and that the throne would soon be left behind. Let her bring it, he said. It will soon be a lesson to her. She can look at the throne and see how far she has come. This is the essential alchemy of love, working the base metal of earthly attachment and returning it to the gold of spirit. The earthly beloved is a vehicle of truth that leads the lover to recognize it after the arduous work of confronting the ego in all its guises and fulfilling his station as insan, the being that fights the forgetting and submits fully to love.
A 5-minute warning, just.
Oh, okay.
5 minutes.
So I won't have time to read the poems that I had wanted to read. I'm going to read 2 of the poems. And one has the image of the hoopoe, which is the messenger between the lover and the beloved. Love poem carried by the hoopoe. Its shadow curling, crossing Milky Ways, lunar cuts, craters, ice, and oceans of dust. For us shorebirds with no fine crest or velvet flight, just the formula of love in veins, exact ratios between each other's wingtips, trills, intuiting light in fractions and wind's directions. We fly low and long, turn for joys folded with aches in proportion, turn seasons from burnt nests to gold leaf pages, our poem in mythic talons above. And I'm going to finish with a long poem that came out of my thinking about the apocalypse, the environmental crisis, and the beloved. So I'm just going to read the footnote that explains what it is. The Arabs of antiquity read the sky as leaps from one constellation to another, measuring distance, orienting by the imagined leaps of the gazelle. The gazelle is also a stand-in for the beloved and said to be the inspiration behind the genre of love poetry called ghazal. Dear gazelle at the end of the world, listen. 5 leaps make 1 generation of incense in the temple of the universe. 5. If you prove too quick for the lion, if the wild buffalo casts a grim shadow, but it or the baboon's ambush fails to capture you, if you give the cheetah a gash with your antlers and run, if you slip off the deep edge of the river and steady yourself against the rhino, the crocodile may still snatch you, split your chiffon underbelly, pluck your liver, yank the golden flesh off your rib cage. Your heart, our home, may be swooped up, skewered in the claws of a hawk. You, desert's gleam and curl, darling of court poets, lightest quilt stroke between desire and death, from air-conditioned gallery to mirror-studded haveli, palace salon to wrecked luxury ship. 4. Who will be the measure of glimmer in your eye after our vanishing? Who the rush of air in your death cry? 3. You, shadow darting, lick bitter leaves, edged, sweet meta, garden of language, barbed pages, whiff of the world before it was a body bag, a tag on the toe of forgetting, a blind alley, while Eve negotiated the bling, the limits, the hissing, you, pencil sharp, elusive, dipped in the unsayable as the field of words turned from insinuation to landmine. Pages, whiff of the world before it was a body bag, a tag on the toe of forgetting, a blind alley, chase written in your blood. You sense arrow tip and predator, skipped over the serpent, still dipped in the unsayable as the field burns from insinuation to landmine. You, the marble third eye, the melting gaze between us. 2. We who came 2 by 2, buckling, bickering, cooing, snarling, ticking and sighing, are held by rhythms. To each body, a fire, a tulip, a stream of milk, staccato, meter of linen. To each another. Dear gazelle, do you hear in the hum of motors, in hurricanes, silent starlit dunes, in midnight markets, a signal from your spitting image, the whistle, whisper of another? Fall into rhythms. To each body, a fire, a tulip, a stream of milk, staccato, linen. Dear gazelle, giddy with a cosmos in your ear, do you hear? In beep beeping and rescue sirens, slacks of dunes, in midnight markets, a signal from your spitting image, whistle, whisper of another? Entwined, splintered, do you hear in the apocalyptic roll call the cry of the one? In the final convulsion, we, eagle, iguana, fungus, fox, squid, sandpiper, seaweed, lion, plumeria, garlic, dolphin, sweet pea, scorpion, all 2.12 million species or more, enter your leap as one. Our taxonomy mosaic, a singular tremor, we the ache in your body, we the soot of sprig, brow bone, gill, stem, sternum, tongue, trunk, wing, musk, sob, seed, scale, husk, sentience, fur, nails, and memory. We the shiny vapor you inhale, aphrodisiac, amorphous teardrop, terrible acid, as you leap for the last time, funerary rosewater and ash on hooves, our curtain call collapsed to fit your heart's coffin as you haul us to the farthest constellation. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Shadab. Shadab, by the way, you still have 7 minutes because your timing is different than because you are a plenary speaker. So if there's anything else you would like to read, please go ahead and do so.
Okay. So I wanted to share a ghazal just because, as Samir explained, the ghazal follows the idea of leaps. So it's a different kind of coherence. This is not understood as the Aristotelian idea of beginning, middle, and end. It's the meaning making that happens in the leaps. And Samir explained it very well when he was talking about the Quran. So I'm going to read a ghazal. The topic is the same as this poem. This is called Apocalypse Ghazal. And what you'll hear in this, it's in couplets. That's the ghazal form. And there's a playfulness in this form that's part of the form, and the high sentiment, and it's kind of declarative. So you'll hear all those things. The last couplet usually is a signature couplet with the poet's name, and my pen name is Zeest, and so you'll hear that. And I'll read it in the traditional Urdu style. Pouncing from screen to retina, cyber ray kills a little. Pouncing from screen to retina, cyber ray kills a little. Avoid soot, plastic, beware, even perfume kills a little. This spring, neither crocuses, peonies, nor primroses arrived. This spring, neither crocuses, peonies, nor primroses arrived. Only the Toulouse goose quawks and Tailor bird trills a little. How we woke to the oldest feud or kiss thrown by the sun. How we woke to the oldest feud or kiss thrown by the sun. How broke backs to split atoms, labor the soil, till a little. The planet reeks of ink, blood games of the Times dressed as language. This is the Times, the newspaper, the Times. The planet reeks of ink, blood games of the Times dressed as language. What bounties hubris will sponge, poetry will refill a little. Zeest in the chill of the universe's amaranthine night. Zeest in the chill of the universe's amaranthine night. Let one skipped beat, your human sputter and spark, thrill a little. And I wanted to end with this poem that is a response to Rumi saying that when it comes to love, the pen breaks. So the idea that it's impossible to write about love. It's called Love Poem Between Brush Tip and Paper. Love poem between brush tip and paper glides like a panther in goose grass, shrine of air in soap bubble. Swallow I cannot tell apart from almond branch or slingshot. Love poem exhales ink, makes blossoms of hiccups, sparks of spittle. It rubs its wings to shine a light on the soul given a rib cage, and the other shaped from a rib, made neither free nor without prayer. Her soul cemented to the potter's wheel, breath rising to the sky's tablet, writing love. Thank you. Thanks.
That was amazing, Shadab. That was incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. And